name's Todd Hawkins. Professionally, I am an editor for an educational publishing company. Recreationally, I write poetry. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. My dad's grandfather was an original enrollee. I wasn't necessarily immersed in Choctaw culture growing up, but a lot of the stories were always there in the background when I was growing up. In middle school, I started writing as just a form of expression, not necessarily writing for an audience, but just journaling and things like that. And I was exposed to some great literature, of course, like everyone was in high school. And in college, I majored in English, got out with an English degree, and encountered a lot of other great poets. And around the time I was in college, I started writing for an audience. And shortly after that, I got a couple of pieces published, and ever since then, you know, I've continued to write and get a piece published here and there, and then that led up to the chapbook publication. A lot of my poems will focus on kind of rural subject matter, which isn't something you often see in poetry these days, at least not in some of the contemporary things that I see. It tends to be a little bit more urbane, but we've got a family ranch that's not too far from Austin, about halfway from here to Austin. And a lot of my poems focus on the land and being out in that part of the state. I just released a new chapbook called 10 Counties Away from Finishing Line Press. And every poem in there concerns either Texas or the Southwest in general. I tend to write historical poetry using different historical persona as subject matter. I kind of try to focus on some of the history, not some of the major figures, but some of those people that are in the periphery. I think about this story. I was probably about, I don't know, 3rd grade, and I was doing one of my first biographical essays for school, and I was assigned Andrew Jackson. And I was like, you know, Andrew Jackson, he's great. President of the United States, he was a hero of the War of 1812, and I wrote this great essay about Andrew Jackson. And I showed my dad, and that's where my Choctaw lineage comes through. And he told me what he thought of Andrew Jackson in language that probably would not be appropriate for this venue here. But that was just one of the first instances where I found out there's a different story other than the one that you learn in school. You know, there was an opportunity for him to discuss the Trail of Tears and everything that he was involved in with that. And that kind of fostered my interest in looking at, you know, beyond the stories that you encounter for their face value and delving a little bit deeper. So, you know, one of the poems in my chapbook concerns Sylvia Ridley, who was a Choctaw internee at the Hiawatha Asylum for Insane Indians. So I got the opportunity to research her life. There's not a whole lot known, but I could go back and look at historical sources to find out about her and kind of try to give her a voice. In January 1905, Sylvia Ridley, a Choctaw woman, was sent from Oklahoma to the Hiawatha Asylum for Insane Indians in South Dakota. Confinement at the asylum was often used as retribution against mentally healthy Native Americans who had irritated Indian agents or local politicians. Here's the poem proper. Dearest Kay, you'll remember I used to draw butterflies where I wanted to cut. Not anymore. Write as much as you possibly can. You know, there's 2 reasons to write poetry. You write poetry for yourself, and then you write poetry for an audience. But it's just like anything else where you have to practice, and the more you write, even if it's not something you're going to be proud of or want others to read, it's good practice. Write and read what other people do.